Welcome to Extremely Forgetful. The best SolidWorks users always remember these tips. I'm Vince Farrell. I'm a senior applications engineer here at Hawkridge Systems. My colleague Gabe Crisologo is also on here. He's going to be helping with any questions, keeping an eye on the chat. So if you do have any questions, just put them in that Q&A, and that way we can get to them. We'll be looking at questions throughout the presentation, but we'll also have a few minutes at the end if you have any additional questions. We should have a few minutes. I'm not the most extreme guy, but I do have a couple pictures there of me jumping out of an airplane. So that is pretty extreme, I think. And also I'm married with 2 kids. So whatever your risk level is, you can consider either of those extreme. Here's the agenda today. I'll be talking about tips and tricks from interface, sketching, modeling, and assemblies. But before I do that, I'm going to launch a couple polls here just to see where everyone's at. First one is, how many years have you been using SolidWorks? So that's open. Please go ahead and put in wherever you're at, any level. Just want to see where people are and what the general audience is. All right, go ahead and end that poll. All right, so a lot of people, 10 plus, which is great. And then pretty even spread across the other ones. If you are 10 plus, hopefully you get something out of this presentation. I know I have. And I'm going to do a second one here. Have you seen a tips and tricks presentation before? Yes, I have. Or if this is your first time. All right. Looks like about 50-50 on that one too. Okay, great. Well, without any further ado, let's get started here. So first, I'm going to be talking about the interface. I'll be doing or mouse gestures, welcome screen, repeat last command. So a few things there. Also,
hey Vince, before we get started here, just want to make sure you're sharing the correct screen that you have on right now. What I'm seeing is the Hawkridge Systems background.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Thanks, Gabe. How about now?
Perfect. There we have it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, back to here then. Interface. We're talking about option search. Welcome to SolidWorks screen. Some mouse gestures there. Also, breadcrumbs, triad, D key, copy settings. So a lot of good stuff in there. Again, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first up, the option search. No need to hunt around for those options. Just type it in there. Go up there to your system options up there at the top. Go to search options. You do have to know the name or a part of the name. So here I'm searching for normal to auto rotate to normal, but you just click on it and it'll take you right there to it. It also works for document properties. So if you're searching for units, it'll take you right there. So again, just go up there to that search window and start typing. You do have to know the name. So just a part of the name. Next up, welcome screen and recent documents. So here, I already have a part open in SolidWorks. So you would normally see this when you just open up a part or assembly or a drawing, but you can get to it up here by clicking on the house. Either click on that or Control F2. You bring that up, you can do a new part, assembly, drawing. You can also go to your advanced templates. You can open up things, recent documents and recent folders. I'll talk a little bit about in a second. You can look at the what's new, my SolidWorks, get support. Recent documents is great. You can do quick filters, which again, I'll talk a little bit later on. You can also pin files down. So if you're working on something a lot, you can just pin it down and then it'll always stay active there, because otherwise, every time you open up something, this list clears out. Another thing I like to point about the recent documents is you can hit those double arrows on there and you can open up things with different modes resolved or different configurations or display states. So that's really cool. And then you can get to your folders right there. There's also the Learn tab. So introducing SolidWorks, SolidWorks fundamentals, tutorials, my SolidWorks training, and then any technical alerts, right? When's the latest and greatest 2022 PR1 is out. That's actually what I'm using right now, 2022. Command search, very similar to the system option search, but for commands. So this is going to be up here at the top right of your SolidWorks screen, right in there. If for some reason you don't see it, go ahead and hit this pull down. Sometimes it defaults to SolidWorks help, but should go to the commands there. It looks like a DOS prompt, right? Or a command prompt. Just again, you need to know part of the name there. So I happen to know I'm looking for insert part. So I just did INS. And then if you click over here, it just takes you right to the command, but also you can click on the eyeball and it'll take control of your mouse. See, no hands, look, I'm on no hands. And there, it takes your mouse right there. So it's a great learning tool. The other thing about this is that you can take a command if you're always searching for it and just left click and drag and drop it onto your command manager, and then it will show up right there. I'm going to just take that off just by hitting customize, and we'll talk about customize later on as well. Repeat last command. Either hit enter for that last command you just did or right click. So here I'm measuring something, I measure an edge and get my measurement, and it closes out and realize, hey, I need to measure something again. Just hit enter key on and it'll pull up that command again. Also, you can right click, get to the recent commands, and it'll show up to your 8 last commands. So that's enter key or right click recent commands. Selection tools, previous selection, selection filters, selection sets. So here you select something, you click off, oh no, just right click and go to previous selection, and then you can get that selection back. F5 turns on this selection toolbar, and then you can just select faces or edges or vertices. And sometimes people turn that on by default or by accident, excuse me, because there's keyboard shortcuts. And then also you can control select a group of things, right click and hit save selection, add it to a new selection set. And then it's over there in the folder on your feature manager tree. And then you can just click on it there, edit it. So selection sets are really helpful, especially if you're always selecting a group of things. Shortcut keybar or toolbar, one of my favorite tools, that S key. So when you're in a part, assembly, or drawing, just hit the S key, shows up right there. You get a list of commands. You can hit any of these. Look at the pull down here. New in 2022, this is a recent upgrade, right? You can search command, you get the command search right there. You can also right click on this at any time and hit customize. It's different for parts, assemblies, drawings. So just keep an eye on that, and sketches. But I'll show more about the customize later on. Mouse gestures, raise my hand. I know I've stumbled on these on accident, but they're actually a great tool. They can increase your efficiency by about 30% if you're really using them, and I'm definitely going to use them here. So hold down that right mouse button, move in a direction, this wheel pops up, right? People initially don't know what this is and they get scared. It's okay, just swipe up in a direction, right? Up, left, right, isometric, really cool. You can go up here to next to the system options, hit customize, and go to the mouse gestures tab. You can do 2, 3, 4, 8, 12. I like 8, 12 gets a little busy. But you can see, again, just like the S key, they're customized for parts, sketches, assemblies, drawings. You can print them, put them on your wall right in front of you in case you're learning. So again, just hold that right mouse button in the graphics area and then swipe in a direction of the command you want to use. D key for right there. That's the way I remember it. So I'm doing a sketch. I'm going to create a revolved cut. You see that confirmation corner is up there in the top right of the graphics area. But if you hit D on your keyboard, it brings it right to your mouse cursor. So it works for that confirmation corner. Also, if you're inside of a sketch, just again, hit that D key and it brings it right to your cursor. So saves you from making that long trip all the way up there to the corner of the graphics area, right? It's all about efficiency. Not stopping your design to go click on something, right? So again, that's the D key. And a little bit more about customize, right? A lot of things you can customize in SOLIDWORKS. You want to make sure that you get it working the right way you want it to. So again, it's next to the system options. Go to the pull down, customize. You can change the icon size, turn off the tooltips. I leave these on. I love these. Again, shortcut bars are right here, right? So again, it's an in context tool. You can change it here or there. There's those mouse gestures again. Something I get questions about a lot, right? What keyboard shortcuts are already available in SOLIDWORKS? Just go to this tab, go to the keyboard, click on this, and it'll sort you. I did it a couple times, so these show up at the top, and then it shows you all the existing keyboard shortcuts. You can print them out, create your own. I've created a couple, so it's really a good tool there. And again, that's next to your system options right there, customize. Breadcrumbs. Click on a face or a part in an assembly and you can step up and down in it. So here, if I click on this, this feature, you see I can go up to the feature. I can edit the sketch. Also, if you hit that D key, it brings it to your cursor. So they show up in the top left of your graphics area, right? And then you can just click on each part of it. You can change appearances. When you're inside of an assembly, you can see the mates there and you can adjust those. So that's those breadcrumbs. Again, just makes it so that you don't have to go to the feature manager tree. You can get to where you want to get to. Copy settings, very useful if you're upgrading your SOLIDWORKS or you're moving to a different machine, or you're an admin and you want everyone to start with the same settings. So the copy settings wizard while you're inside SOLIDWORKS is over there at the task pane. Just go to that copy settings wizard, save settings, go to next, pick what you want to save out, and then where, and hit finish, and then restore settings. Just go here and restore them, and then it'll just copy over all those settings. Also, you can get to it outside of SOLIDWORKS. So just inside Windows Explorer, just SOLIDWORKS has to be installed on the machine. So, but you don't have to pull a license and open up SOLIDWORKS. That's the copy settings wizard. Zoom to fit. Well, zoomed in too much or zoomed out too much. So for example, zoom way in here, extreme close up. No, that's not cool. Go up here to your heads up toolbar up here at the top and click on the zoom to fit button, takes it back. Also, you can hit F on your keyboard, F for fit, and then you can also double middle mouse click. I say this is also a troubleshooting tool because if you're doing a multi-body part or you're doing a sketch or an assembly, sometimes things are way out in space and you don't see them. But when you do that zoom to fit, everything will zoom, it'll zoom appropriately and get you back. So that's that zoom to fit. Zoom to selection, right click on a feature or a part and zoom in on it. So here, I want to take a look at maybe this revolve one. I want to see where it's at. So I can see it kind of highlighted in the tree, but sometimes things are hidden behind other things. So you can right click or left click. You get that magnifying glass. It's got an equal sign in there. And then You can zoom up on it. Really useful tool. We'll use it later on also when we're creating our own name views. And last in this section, the reference triad. It's not just for tracking how your part or your assembly is in space. You can click on an axis, go normal to, and do a couple other things with it. So here's that reference triad down here in the bottom left of your screen. You see that you can rotate around and it rotates with it, but you can also click on these. If you hold Alt, it'll go about the axis 15 degrees for you. If you hold Shift, it'll go 90 degrees about those axes. And then if you just click on an axis by itself, it'll go 90 degrees to that, so normal to it. So it's not just for tracking where you are in space, you can do certain things with it. And if you're curious, there's no axis to go isometric like I did. I'm just hitting Control-7 on my keyboard. So that was the interface section. Gabe, we getting any interesting questions or any chatter?
No questions so far.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, if anything comes up, please put it in that chat. It must be self-explanatory, or you guys have seen all this so far. So let's go on to sketching. So sketching, I talk about normal to, window lasso select, power trim, again, another one of my favorite tools. Also fully defined sketch, the sketch expert, close sketch automatically, just some highlights there. So first up, normal to, select the icon, or here I hit the space bar. It's actually up here in your view orientation tab. So let's take a look at what you can do with normal to. If you're inside of a sketch, right, your sketch is rotated at 180, you can hit that normal to and it rotates it around. So you're normal to it inside of a sketch and you can flip around 180. If you're outside of a sketch, just click on a face and then left click or right click, hit normal to, and it'll take you normal to that face. And if you can control select two surfaces or flat surfaces, the first one is normal to, the second one is up. Okay, so that's what we did there. Again, inside of a sketch, hit that normal to, it'll rotate you around 180 degrees to the sketch plane. Sketch relations with shared endpoints. This is something, let's switch to another part here. So you can see here, I have a bunch of relations around here. They're all tangent, but this one doesn't have a tangency. So I could control select both of these entities and then the tangent will show up. It was in that bar over there, or it shows up here on the property manager over here, but that's a long way to click. You can also just click on the endpoint itself and it'll show up here. The trick is it doesn't show up there on the left. So if you're doing a shared endpoint, just keep that in mind, but you can just click on it and then create that relation really fast. Don't have to select multiple entities. Window and lasso select. Two ways to use this: box select or a lasso select. Left to right selects everything completely inside, right to left, everything crossing it. So here I'm going to do a window select. You can see it's blue left to right. So everything inside that arc and that circle is selected. If I go right to left, though, you see everything that crosses it is selected. So the arc, a couple more arcs. Okay. And then you can go to your selection tools, change it to lasso selection so you can do more of a free form. And it works the same way. Left to right is blue and everything's inside. Right to left would be green and everything that crosses is selected. So that's the window or lasso select. Temporarily disable auto relations. These are great. I recommend always having those auto relations on, but hey, sometimes you don't want them on, right? So I'm going to use my mouse gestures and go into sketching a line. And you see when you're sketching a line, right, you get those auto relations on. So it's going to snap to horizontal, vertical. You also see some yellow lines there. But like I said, sometimes you don't want that. So just hold control on your keyboard. You see I'm holding control. It's not snapping anywhere. Even I try to get it as close to 90. There's no relation created there. So that's just holding control while you're sketching something. You can also disable those within your system options if you'd like. But as I mentioned, I always recommend having those on. Power trim, as I said, one of my favorite tools. Hold down that mouse button to swipe across the trim. A couple other things about it. So go up here to that trim entities, left click and drag, you get that gray line, drag it across. What's that red dot? It's the undo. So just keep in mind, you have to hold down or keep holding down the left mouse button while you're doing it in order to undo. If you release it, you won't get that anymore. So that's what we're seeing here. And then also you can keep trimmed entities as construction geometry. So turn that on and you can keep those as construction and not have them disappear. Arc conditions. This happens when you're doing a smart dimension to two arcs or one arc and a line. So here I'm going to do a smart dimension between these two entities. What happens is default, it goes to the center of those two circles, right? So I can place down that dimension and then go over here to the leaders tab. And then down here at the bottom, we have these arc conditions. So I can set that to minimum, max on either one of those. Okay, and that'll change the sense of my dimension. The other thing I can do though, is I can hold shift. So I'm gonna do this one regularly, but if I hold shift on the second one, see when I'm close to this end of the circle, I get that dimension. When I'm on this end of the circle, I get that dimension. So I get a minimum or a max. And again, that's just holding shift before you place down that dimension. Does require some forethought. So sometimes people don't get that, but you can always go back to that tab and change it after the fact. Close sketch or create sketch normal to an edge. Pre-select an edge and hit sketch. That's what we're going to do here. So I have an edge here, right there. Notice I kind of clicked more towards this end. Pre-select an edge, hit sketch on the sketch toolbar, and then it creates not only a new sketch, okay, but it creates a plane there normal to that. So you can use that, especially if you're doing any kind of sweeps along edges or any kind of feature, a quick sketch on the edge, normal to. And even if you don't use the sketch, like I'm not going to, you see the plane still there, so you can use it for later sketches or reference. Fully defined sketch. Say, hey, it's always good to have a fully defined sketch because you don't want things to move in ways you don't expect. And you know, those blue lines, or you go down there to the status bar, bottom right, and see it's underdefined. Hey, how do you fully define it? Go up here to the top, display delete relations, fully defined sketch. And then you can pick the entities, pick which relations, pick how you want or where you want your dimensions to come from. And then just hit that green check and there it is. So again, now it's fully defined, and you can see that bottom right and back to the underdefined, right? And again, that's just under the display delete relations fully defined sketch. Click drag line creation. This is something that people, especially if you're new to using SolidWorks, when you create lines, right? Oh, that's fine. When you create lines, you just click one endpoint, click a second endpoint, click a third endpoint, and it's just start chaining these lines, right? Well, sometimes you only want one line, right? So instead of doing that, click and drag and hold your mouse. Don't just release the mouse and then it'll just do one line, okay? So again, click, drag. It's called the click drag method, not the click click method. Arc dimensions. You can dimension the length of an arc with the Smart Dimension tool. Just using that smart dimension tool, click one endpoint, click a second endpoint, click the arc, and there you go. You can dimension it to your heart's content. So again, one endpoint, second endpoint, that arc. Sketch expert. Again, I'm going to raise my hand here. Who's created too many dimensions or too many relations, and you get that red overdefined, and you start freaking out, and then you hit undo, right? Well, I'm going to say don't hit undo, and let's see what Sketch Expert can do for you. So you see fully defined there again down at the bottom. I'm going to add in one more relation here. I'm going to add in a collinear. So, hey, my sketch blows up, it's overdefined, but hey, that's actually a button down there. So you click on it, takes you into the sketch export, hit diagnose. You can see different solutions to what you want to do, right? So one of them is always, hey, delete that thing you just added, right? But again, I'll show that again, creating a collinear there. Click on that where it says overdefined, click diagnose, and then it'll walk you through solutions such as deleting a dimension, deleting a relation, deleting the relation you just did. So Sketch Expert, one of those truly great tools to help you out. Spin box increments. This is the spin box under here. I was thinking of a spin doctors joke, but I'll save it. So spin box, go in your smart dimension tool, create a dimension, and that's the spin box. And right here is the default increment. So if you click on that, right now it's 10. If I click and drag this box, the spin box, there we go. It'll go up and down by 10, right? So I can make a quick sizing adjustment. If you hit Alt, it'll go up and down by 1, which is 1/10. And if you hold Control, it'll go up 10 times. Okay, so I can get there. Yeah, back to it. So Alt is 1/10, Control is 10 times. Pierce versus Coincident. Again, I raised my hand because I thought that these were interchangeable, but actually they're not. And Pierce is a really good command if you're doing things like sweeps and lofts. So it's good to understand how it works. Here, I have two different sketches, a curve and a point, and they're on different planes. And I want that point to intersect the curve. So I'm going to edit the sketch of the point, click on it, click on the curve, and then I see make coincident. Oh, it's touching, right? However, when I move it back and forth, I can still move it. It's actually coincident or touching the projection of that curve. So I'm going to get rid of that. Go in here, Control Select again, and then I'm going to say make pierce. And pierce will actually do what I want. It puts it right there on the curve. Only one place it can intersect, except in this case, I have a curve going through going through the plane at two places. So that's why when you click on wherever the part of the line you click closest to, that's what's going to create, or that's where it's going to create the pierce. So definitely a good distinction to understand if you're doing a lot of sweeps, boundary curves. It's good for guide curves. Close Sketch automatically, another tool that you can use in your arsenal here. So, let's exit out of here. So I want to create just a tab on this face. So I'm going to open up a new sketch. Let's do a line here and a line here. And I'm not going to close it. I mean, it's a pretty simple shape. And of course I could close it, but I'm going to keep it open, meaning there's no third line there. And then I'll go to the features and extrude boss base. And as soon as I I do that, it says, do you want to close this sketch with model edges? You see there's a yellow arrow there pointing this way, which is going to be that third edge. I'll hit reverse and then hit yes. And then now you see it closes the sketch for me. And we can just create a tab real quick there. And not the most beautiful, but I can always go back and edit it.
Hey, Vince, do you
Yes.
mind covering the Sketch Expert portion again?
Yeah.
I think it was still on the PowerPoint and we missed the demo of it.
Sure. So yeah, Sketch Expert. Again, if you over define a sketch, so something's fully defined, click on it and create another relation. And then it's down there at the bottom right, that over defined where it's red. You click on that and then click on diagnose, and that's the Sketch Expert. And then you can walk through the different solutions. Good.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for letting me know. All right, that's sketching. We're about halfway through here. We're going to head into modeling. Any other questions? Anything coming up yet?
We had a couple just regarding the recordings, but those will be shared after the event as well. So
okay,
so far,
great.
so good.
Thanks. Yeah, definitely. You don't have to remember all this, writing it down furiously. No, it's going to be recorded. And yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that at the beginning. All right, let's go into modeling then. Force rebuild, which can be a troubleshooting tool, create a quick mid-plane, performance evaluation, which I'll actually talk about twice, a little spoiler alert there. Let's talk about force rebuild. So when you create you do a change within SolidWorks, right, you edit a dimension sometimes, you'll see the stoplight, right, on the feature. And we'll actually see this a little bit later on. And you can go and hit this at the top of your screen. It's a stoplight, or you can use Control B on your keyboard, and that will rebuild just that change filter. But sometimes the part of sketch is stubborn and it's not rebuilding everything, or I've seen some graphical issues. So you can use Control Q, and that will rebuild all features. Just keep in mind, it does do all features. So if you have something really complicated, you might not want to do that, but it's more of, I would say, a troubleshooting tool, but you can always do that. Control Q. Quick reference planes. You ever want to create a quick plane? It's easy. Let's go to another part here. You do have to have an existing plane to copy from, but luckily SolidWorks always has default planes in there if you don't change these, right? Front, top, right plane. So just pre-select one of the planes that you want to copy. So I'm selecting the front plane, hold Control and drag. And I'm holding Control and left clicking and dragging, and then release your mouse button before you release Control. It creates a copy of the plane there. You see it's at a certain distance. You can also change it to any of these other parallel, perpendicular, and you can add in a second and third reference. So, and just a quick way to create a plane while you're sketching while you're working in your part, rather than going all the way up here to reference geometry. So just, again, hold Control, left click and drag, create that plane. Let's create a quick mid plane more along that. Just Control select two parallel faces or plane, and then planes, and create a plane. So Control select these two faces, go up here to the top, go to plane, and there's your mid plane. Very useful if you're doing any kind of mirroring or symmetry, right? It's always helpful to have those mid planes. So just have to have two flat faces, right? Or planes, because that's how it's going to place it. Feature tree filter. Definitely another thing I didn't know before I started teaching SolidWorks. If you go above your part name or assembly, up here at the top there, this is a filter. It's not just blank space keep taking up space on your feature manager tree. You click on it, you can type in something like SKE for your sketches. It filters out all of the sketches, and then so you can see where all your sketches are. The thing I always point out when I talk about this filter is this really creates a good case for why you would rename any features or sketches, because Boss Extrude 1 really doesn't tell me anything, but if I have, outside mounting or something, it makes it really easy for me to use this feature tree filter. So definitely, I always say, if you can, rename any of these features to something more descriptive so you can use this. So again, it's just up there, and then you can hit the X to get rid of it, or once you select something, it automatically clears itself out. And then also, when you expand anything like this, you can collapse it by holding Shift and hitting C on your keyboard, Shift C. So get back to that default nice collapsed tree there. All right, special folders in the tree. We have sensors and design binders. Let's take a look at those. These are default, always in your feature manager tree right there, sensors. You can right click on that, say add sensor. Yeah, those can have to do or with mass properties, for example, or I have one that's already set up for a dimension. So 7.5 millimeter dimension there. That's for this hole. What it's going to do is when I change the dimension of this, I make it bigger. It's not going to stop me because it's just sensing it. But what it will do is, and there's that rebuild, right? It'll show me that, hey, this is above it, above what you said. And then there's that design binder. Design journal document is there by default, or let's go back there. Or you can, so you can edit that Word document, or you see I did a history of skydiving PDF, for my design. You can keep stuff in there, so it's just going to help you with your design. Performance evaluation. Let's take a look at this. Quickly analyze the number of features and bodies in a part. So the performance evaluation is under Evaluate tab, and it's right there. What this is going to do is help you investigate your part, right? See how many features are in it, solids, how many surfaces. Total rebuild time is 0.56 seconds. So that rebuild time is going to help you, or when you create a new feature or you put it in an assembly, that's very important. You can also go here, you can click on anything, it takes you to that feature in the tree, or you can right click on it, go edit sketch, edit feature, suppress it, and it's there. So again, that's performance evaluation up there. Feature freeze bar. This is under the part name. So go up to your system options. It's there under the general, enable freeze bar. And it's that golden bar right under there, the name. It works like the rollback bar. You left click and drag it down. It comes from the top. And then anything above where you drag it to, it's locked. So you make changes below it, it won't rebuild. That goes back to that rebuild time, right? And then you can say, okay, I don't want it to go through and check all this stuff every time I make a change. And that way you can do all your design. Once you drag it back up to the top, it will rebuild everything though. And quick up to surface extrude. So if you have a sketch and you want to do it up to surface end condition, go to extrude raw space, just double click the surface and it'll just go up to that surface. And even on this case, going back to that extrusion, it's going the opposite direction. It doesn't matter, just double click that surface. Dynamically loading feature works. If you work with a lot of imported parts, you might have run into feature works, right? Well, feature works, the way I like to use it is, instead of doing the whole part, just right click on the feature you want, click edit feature, and then it'll just do that part of the part. So in this case, I have a hole, I right click, select edit feature, and it changes it to a hole wizard feature. So definitely recommend that instead of doing the whole part, right? All right, Gabe, anything coming up? We have about 10 minutes left and I want to make sure I get through everything.
I do have a question about the PowerPoint slide deck, Vince. Would this be something that you'd be able to potentially upload
Potentially,
session?
yeah. Let me double check on that, and
Cool.
yeah, hopefully I'll be able to provide this for everybody.
Cool. Yeah, we'll look into it.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, let's go through assemblies real quick. So yeah, performance evaluation is going to come back. Hiding components with tab or shift tab, quick copy, assembly visualization. First, let's talk about folders in the tree. Always a big proponent for organizing things, and you can do that with folders. So here I'm going to shift select all the power gear and control select that one. Just right click and say add to new folder. And then there's your new folder. Change it to power gear. And then now you can right click on that, hit suppress, or you can hide all that. So you can also do this with a part. I just say keep in mind that with a part, you have those parent-children relationships, and you want to make sure that your folder doesn't mess with that. If you try it with a part, you'll know what I mean. So that's folders in the tree. Custom views, hit that space bar while you're in a part to create a custom view. So here in this assembly, I already have a custom view, and I'll get to it by hitting spacebar. There's an ISO view here. I can click on it, and it's in there. How did I create that? I'm going to use that zoom to selection again. So right click, zoom to selection, hit the spacebar, and it's this one, new view. Looks like a telescope with an asterisk over it. You give it a name. So close up, front close up. Okay, and as soon as you do that, it's in there. So I can actually switch around. I can rotate like that and then go back to front close up. Really useful for definitely for parts or assemblies, also for drawings when you're always zooming up on the title block. So that's the named view. Performance evaluation, it's back. It's back. Performance evaluation up here at the top, again under evaluate, right here. If you click on it, it's very different for an assembly. So previous file references is a big one. You want to make sure everything's at the same level, if possible, or same release. Graphics triangles, you want these are a big contributor to your assembly performance. So the more graphics triangles or complicated a part looks, the more it takes to load it, move things around. Things like, and this will also tell you how many mates are in there, how many part components. So again, contributes all to the speed of your assembly, how quickly it opens, how quickly you can move things around. So slow assemblies is definitely a big issue sometimes. And then there's also a button here to take you right to assembly visualization, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Quick width mate. I love width mates, centering things, right? If you control select 4 flat faces, 1, 2, 3, and 4, that width mate shows up there. Click on it, puts it right in the middle. You can just hit the green check for a centered width mate, or you can change it to a free dimension or percent. So quick width mate, control select 4 parallel faces. Hide components with body or tab. Again, one of those top tips that if you're hiding and showing things a lot in your assemblies, just hover over it, hit tab. Now you have to hover over it again and hit shift tab to bring it back. The trick on that is you don't always know where something is. You know where it's hidden because you can see it in the tree. But you do have to kind of know where it is to go shift tab to bring it back. But something this kind of reminds me of doing a chord on a guitar. If you do control shift tab and then click on it with your mouse, that's another way you can bring it back. And that also works for multi-body parts. Assembly visualization, color code your assemblies using different parameters. So it's up there next to the performance evaluation, or you can get to it through performance evaluation. Use different things like mass to color code your parts within there to show what's the heaviest. You can also add in things like graphics triangles, right? Really makes a nice visual way to investigate your assemblies and see what's going on, right? You can also add it as a display state. So you can access that again. Open the top level assembly using quick filters. So if you go to open something, right, there's these quick filters down there on the bottom. That's parts. You can toggle them on and off. You see, if I do the assemblies, there's two things that show up, right? Two assemblies. But if I want just the top one, I go to that right one, and then it'll take me right to the top one, and then I can open it up. So SolidWorks will know in the folder which one is the top assembly. Quick copy. This is kind of like the plane. Just hold control and drag. So within the graphics area, if I want to create a copy here, just hold control, left click and drag, and then I can create a copy. There's my graphics thing, right? Some weird things. So if I hit Control Q, it'll power itself up or get rid of it. You can also do it from here. Just hold control, left click and drag from the tree, and you can bring in quick copies. Isolate and display state. So isolate tree items and create display states based on that. So I'm going to control select two of these, right click, select isolate right here. And then it hides everything else but them. And I have this exit isolate so I can see, get out of that. But I can also save this as a display state by hitting that. We'll just call it covers. And then I can exit out of there. And now I don't have to go through that same rigmarole here. Little pro tip from Mr. Crisologo. So right click here at this arrow, and then you can switch display states really quickly. So there's that covers one, right? So that's isolate. And last thing I want to show you, everyone, is this preview window. And a great thing when you're mating something, mating up parts in an assembly, right click on it or left click. I always like right clicking because the menu stays on there. Go to the component preview window. Now you can rotate this part independently, zoom up. When you click on it, you can see the face inside here, inside the assembly. So you can use that to mate. You can also change how it's shown. So you can hide it so you can see inside there. And then when you're done, just hit exit preview. So again, that's just a right click, and it's this one. It looks like a part within a window. And that's your component preview window. All right. I thought we'd have a little bit more time at the end. I apologize. I did want to launch one more poll here and see which is your favorite section that your favorite tip came from. I know there was a lot. Interface, sketches, modeling, assemblies, or hey, none. I knew them all. And if that's the case, go ahead and submit your resume so you can do this presentation for us next year. You're obviously a pro. So really happy that everyone was able to make it for this. I'm going to close that. Ooh, I had a couple people who knew it all. Okay. Get in touch with us, please. Enjoy the rest of the conference. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and people learned something. And call us, email us. Gabe, are you seeing this? Just want to make sure everyone's seeing this.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So get in touch with us. We're your partners. Join us on Facebook. Go to our YouTube channel. We're putting out YouTube videos periodically over and over. So, or new content all the time. These will be available on our website and possibly other places. So get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you.